Rocking chair session. With Elisa Di Battista, Maria Teresa Barber.
Hello, everyone.
And welcome to RCS Rocking Chair Sessions, Volume 37, with artist Kristen Thiele.
Thiele.
I apologize.
Rhymes. It's like tea leaf without the F.
Tea leaf without the E.
Yeah, that's what I tell my students.
Okay.
That's how they remember.
Where does the name originally come from, if I may ask?
German.
German.
And if you
That's
said
why
it,
I'm so good at
you
it.
said it in, well, but here you can say Thiele. I've seen it Thiele.
Yeah, that's what I lean
Thiele, Thiele, but Germany you would say Thiele.
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 Really?
Thiele.
Strong.
Like the Austrian
Yeah.
accent. Have you been to visit Germany, or?
I have. Yeah, I was in Berlin. Actually, I went to see a friend who is having a show there, Jenny Brillhart, who's from Miami, and we had a great time. I loved Berlin. It was fantastic. That was like 2006 or 7.
That's not too bad.
I'm going in January.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I took German for a semester at Miami-Dade just to prepare myself for the trip. But everyone speaks English.
What?
Yeah.
So you get there, you're like,
There's only one person that didn't speak English that I got to really try it out on. Of course I would.
Usually the older people, if they don't speak English, the young people, everyone speaks. And then it's a melting pot as well, Berlin, right? There's so many people from also Eastern Europe. And
I loved it. I wish I could have stayed longer.
Oh, really?
It just was very, when you get a visceral feeling, like you feel comfortable somewhere.
Yeah.
Like it was exciting, it was comfortable at the same time. Like you feel like you fit there.
in.
Yeah, it was a great feeling. I would love to go back, yeah.
And where did your family come from in Germany? Do you know?
My grandmother came from Cologne.
Cologne.
And so that's and my grandfather, I'm not quite sure. God, I don't know. I should know this. We don't know our own families like beyond our grandparents.
Yeah, it normally stops the family tree, but investigation.
We should all know this stuff.
Well, especially if they're that far, if they came from that far away, it's not always
My
so
grandmother
easy.
actually came, very interesting, she came, she was courted by another person who was an older guy, and he courted her when she was young, like maybe 18, 17, in Germany, and said he was going to move, he was going to get a job, and he was going to bring her over, which he did. And she ended up having an affair with my grandfather.
Oh my.
Right.
In Germany.
No, here, when she came here.
Already.
When she came here. So my grandfather was married, and she was married to another person. And so then she had this back door or backyard, I don't know, romance with this guy Berthold, who was much older. And that's their story. And she had 4 children, one of them it's possible all of them were from Berthold. We don't know.
You don't know if it was like her love.
She never told. Mm-hmm.
But
So-
she stayed married to the first guy.
No. They ended up. Nick Nicias was the first guy, and she ended up marrying Berthold. Right. I mean, wow, so scandalous.
Romantic
Grandma.
and scandalous.
Grandma.
Which there's so much drama in, like, I feel like the paintings you do, like this cinematic, like, movie. That sounds like such a movie itself. Like
That could be a total Hollywood
That it could be
movie.
a total Hollywood
Well, it's
premise.
got a lot of there's a lot of drama. There's romance.
Yeah.
It's got all the keys. But she was very I knew her as an old short lady. So I never saw that side of it.
You're like, Grandma.
She taught me how to sew and stuff. That
that's
was
great.
cool.
So start using your hands.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
That's right. She was
Yeah.
very creative.
Did you learn any other specialities like cooking or like the German Christmas cookies?
Oh, I
or
love making
the-
cookies, and I do make.
do?
I make the little white. What are they called?
Oh
They're
my
the
God.
balls. The
Yes.
white.
Oh, they sell them at Trader Joe's. They're so good.
My grandmother made them. They're almonds.
Rumkugeln?
I don't.
Is it rum? With rum
No,
in there?
not
No,
rum.
they're not
They're
rum.
vanilla
And
with
they're powdery,
hazelnuts,
yeah.
and they're
Oh, okay.
powdered like the ball shape.
yeah.
But not, yeah, okay.
delicious.
Because they're like the Vanillegipfeln, they're powdered too, but then they are like a crescent shape. And then we have the rum balls.
Rum is good.
Which is, they are like, oh my God, they're fantastic. And then we have the Lebkuchen, of course. And then we have like
The love cake? Is that what that
the
is?
Lebkuchen, like the gingerbread.
Yeah.
Oh, cute.
And
I love
then
gingerbread cookies.
I like
So it's German tradition.
It's a sin not to start baking before, basically. You should start baking those cookies for Christmas at December 1st latest. And I haven't even started this year,
You're a
so
sinner.
I'm behind it. But
Yeah. The cookie, I can do the baking, but the
can do the
cooking I
baking.
cannot do. I'm really bad at that. Unless it's a holiday and it's, the tradition. The tradition to have, well, it used to be a glass of wine, a cigarette, and then turn the on the oven. Turn on the oven, and everything just goes.
I love it. And are both sides German or just from your dad's side?
Well, my mother's half my mother is her mother is German, and then I came from Germany. Her family came from Germany, and then there's a mixed bag on my grandfather's side.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But you didn't because your grandmother was already here. You didn't have like vacations in Germany as a child or visiting because you.
But they were in Wisconsin, and we used to visit them in Wisconsin.
in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
How was that? Was it mostly like farm, just like secluded, or more city? Like what was your experience?
Well, it's kind of like any suburb where we went. It was not. There was nothing that I can pick out that say it was very rural or city. It was in a small like Naperville. It was somewhere small like that, if I remember correctly. Or was that Chicago? My aunt was living in Chicago. She was like really. She is still my really cool hip aunt.
Oh, you have one of those? That's
Yeah,
great.
she had she was a single lady, and she had like a Camaro, and she had a cool apartment. You turn on the bathroom light, and her radio would go on. And it was like, oh, that's hot. Like I want to do that when I get older. So, but they grew up in Ripon, Wisconsin. That's where it is.
And you grew up in Miami.
I grew up here.
Oh,
right.
you were born here too?
I was born. My father was in the Army, so he was in Hawaii. My mother was there, so I was born there, in an Army hospital. And we moved very young. I wasn't, I have no memory of it, of course. 6 months or something, and my father already had a job here teaching at Miami-Dade.
Okay, great.
And after his Army stint, he came back here and resumed teaching.
It's exciting.
And my mother taught at UM. She taught at Miami-Dade, and then she taught at UM. So I kind of grew up. If you were at the art school at UM, you probably it didn't exist anymore. They had like shacks, literally like the forgotten zone of UM.
They had an old white building that was closed down by the time I got there. That was
That's
like
it.
just labeled as dangerous,
Oh, yeah.
and you weren't allowed to go in, and it was fenced up.
Yeah.
And you were just curious, like you could tell it had a lot of history. So you were able to study there. That's awesome.
Yes, and my mother taught there, but it was pretty rickety. Yeah.
So if your mother taught there, does that mean she was an artist too?
Yeah.
Both of
What
them
medium?
were artists. Yeah.
What medium? Because we know
She
you're
paints, and she also worked as a courtroom illustrator.
Great.
So that's cool. That you have to do those really fast drawings in federal court because they don't allow cameras in the courtroom.
Exactly.
And so like the stress of that, I can't imagine.
You just have to be on the fly, just ready to.
You have to be on it because people are not stopping for their picture to be drawn.
Exactly.
So yeah,
It's so gestural. So I'm curious, growing up with two talented parents, because your father is also an artist, like, did you feel pressure to become an artist, or were you just like, oh, I am an artist, or how was that discovery of yourself and your talents?
Well, my memory of it was that when I used to play, like my father would give me discarded canvases and I would paint on them. Unfortunately, I would paint also on my mother's canvases, which were not discarded. And she was not happy with that. I couldn't tell. So I didn't know the difference. I didn't know which ones were the ones I could use.
You were like, I'm improving this.
Okay, yeah. So, well, who knows? I don't know what I was thinking. But, and then, yeah, I mean, I think they told me at one point that they were very conscious of not trying to push me in any direction, not trying to influence me, to let me kind of figure it out. And I think it wasn't until high school and I kind of knew where my people were. I knew where my tribe was, and where the like-minded people were. And I felt, again, like that visceral feeling of being somewhere where you feel comfortable and also challenged at the same time. Yeah. You just know it, like it's a good place to be. And when I went to Payback, which nobody knows what that is anymore, it's Performing and Visual Arts Center, which is the precursor to the New World School. Oh. So it's half high school, and then you would drive to stayed. You'd either go to North Campus or to South Campus at the time. South Campus. It's
Dual enrollment.
Kendall.
Yeah.
Dual enrollment, exactly. So you would take half college, half high school, and it was a great experience. And that's where it was all like. That's where the light bulb went on. For me.
Like, this is for me.
And you were able to already take art classes there too in that time, or?
I began taking art classes there when I was just kind of drawing on my own. My father set up a few still lifes for me. He's like, why don't you try this? Because I was drawing from album covers. Like, I was obsessed with David Bowie. So I would just draw David Bowie album covers, right? Of course.
Yeah.
And it's a love for music also. I have a love for music and visual arts, but so that kind of combined the two. I was like, oh, I want to do this. I want to make album covers. And he's like, why don't you draw this? And he would set up still lifes for me as a teacher. He was kind of doing this for me. And then I had a portfolio, and he thought, well, this is pretty decent. Let's see what happens. Let's apply. And that was late. I was in 11th grade already. So I only took 1 year in payback.
Nice.
And then I went to UM after that, like immediately. I was just, shuttled into UM. And I was lucky enough to get a full scholarship.
That's awesome.
But I only was there for 2 years.
Okay, so you
I left after
transferred
2 years. No, I didn't transfer it. I just dropped out.
Ooh, shocking. And what city did you go to?
But you studied art at UM, or was that like a general?
That's right.
You studied art?
Yes.
But after 2 years, you were like...
When I said try before, I meant like-minded people, something where you can bounce ideas off of people. And not that the faculty weren't great, but I didn't find
a mentor.
Not just a mentor, but also peers that were
clicking with you.
Yeah. And so I tried for 2 years. I did okay. I mean, I was fine. I mean, in school I was doing well, but I wasn't feeling it, and I felt like I was just treading water a little bit. So I was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore, and I left, much to the dismay of my parents.
Oh no.
But actually, it was probably the best thing I could have done, in retrospect, because I just did my thing. I waited tables. I earned a living. I got an apartment. I was painting alone in my apartment. I learned how to play bass on my own. Actually, that's where I learned how to play bass. And after like 3 years of that, I was like, I gotta push forward, and I applied to the Art Institute in Chicago. And that's when I moved to Chicago, and that was kind of a breakthrough for me. Mm-hmm. That, again, great place to be. Yeah. Lots of music.
Beautiful city.
In art school, wonderful.
So great.
Yeah. You visited the school. I've never been in Chicago.
Really?
I just know that the school is really great.
Yeah, I gotta stay in the
city is great.
Yeah, amazing. I had a friend who went there. It was a really great program.
Yeah,
beautiful. Mm-hmm. So you went there for your experience for your BFA, yeah.
And you mainly played music there too with your band,
yes.
right? Mm-hmm.
And everything kind of clicked, and it wasn't like pre-planned. I met I was waiting tables again, earning a living doing that, and going to school, and I had this table full of people celebrating a birthday party for one of these guys at the table, his 21st birthday, and it turns out they were chit-chatting with me, and there were two guitar players, and I had been jamming with this girl who was just learning how to play drums, and I was really kind of just learning how to play bass. I mean, I just kind of started really recently. And so we were just like messing around, not getting anywhere. And I was like, well, I play with this girl, this drummer, and it was like, we kind of clicked. And all of a sudden, like a week later, we're playing in this guy's basement.
Great.
And I was like, oh, by the way, just so you know, I have really bad stage fright. I can't play, I can't do that. So we'll just jam and stuff, And yeah, okay. And then so we're writing and playing and all this stuff, and it was great. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, we got a gig. And I was like, wait a minute.
That was not the deal.
Right. So I had to just kind of just slog through it, and then it just went from there, and it turned into like a real breakthrough again. Really the Chicago thing was a really good thing. And I always tell my students, if they can go off on their own and do something brand new out of the context of their life, like out of what they know. Yeah. I think for the most part, I think it's a great growth experience, and so many things come your way and you don't expect. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Certainly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From those gigs.
And I mean, you were incredibly successful with that band then, right?
We did pretty well. Pretty well, but I mean, I think Chicago at that time was real hot, because there's a lot of bands coming out of there, and so there's a lot of activity, like labels were calling people blind. Like they were just calling like, we'll sign you seven record deal. We were getting calls like that, and it was dumb because if you did that, of course, they're like paying you nothing. They're like gambling. They're just like bringing in as many bands as they could, seeing what's stuck and dropping everybody else.
Oh, no.
So that's what was happening to a lot of our friends. And so we didn't want to do that because if you're dropped by a major label, then you're basically dead. You know, nobody wants to touch you.
Totally.
So we thought that was a bad way to go, as tempting as it was. And we went with a great independent record label called Dirt Records out of New York, and they were fantastic. And but eventually, you know, the guitar player and I were dating, and eventually we broke up, and so kind of you know,
Everything
That's so, you know, with bands, it's such a difficult task to keep bands together anyway, right? And then you know, so many couples are in bands too, you know, and if that breaks up, it's like almost impossible to keep the band going. And
on so many journey. What was your experience like? I want to know at the institute beside it. Like, were there any stand-up professors or any classes that you took that were quite, I guess, like.
You know what was great about going there, and I really, I felt you really could take, as an undergrad, you didn't have to focus on any discipline. You could try everything. I took animation, I took video, I took sound. I was taking performance, wasn't for me. But
stage fright and
it wasn't.
You tried.
Yeah, but it really got me to, you know what, I really love video. I love editing. I love putting together like narratives. In fact, that's what I do in my paintings, but it's just a single. But I love, you know, the process of things happening through time. It does relate to what I'm doing now, but video is like a whole nother, you know, I loved it. And if I had more time to do that, I would have definitely been doing more with that, I think. Video and sound together, yeah.
There's still time.
There's still time.
Well,
we're not over yet.
But what you did do is also, did you also do covers for bands in that time? Did you make like art?
Album covers?
Yeah.
I have made album covers weirdly. It has come full circle, that weird dream that I had when I was like 13 years old. But it's weird how things happen. I after school, we were in the band, and this guy who was, we lived in this old bank. I got to back up and kind of paint the picture for you. We lived in an old bank that was kind of like a shotgun, straight shot, you know, front to back thing. It was the mezzanine that they blocked off, right? So basically, there was a hole in the wall, and if you went down into that hole, there's a drop ceiling. It wasn't really a floor, you know, but it was the ceiling of the shoe store that was underneath us. And in the front of the space, we had our band was in the front. And then I lived in the middle, and I had another roommate here, and Josiah lived here. And there's 4 people living at all times with rotating roommates kind of in this one section. And for the first few years, we were there for 8 years, we had another band in the other side of the loft. Blanche, this band Blanche, which is kind of psychobilly punk band, crazy. I can't even really describe it. And also another band called the Wesley Willis Fiasco, which if you look it up, it's insane. Nice. It's like this metal band fronted by a schizophrenic 300-pound guy who was a poet and also a savant. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, he's really interesting. Wesley Willis Fiasco, look it up. He's since died, but he was a fascinating guy. And anyway, the story, getting back to how I did this album cover thing. One of the guys in Blanche also was a silkscreen printer, and he was just getting his footing.
Started.
And he made a few posters for us, a few motorhome posters, kind of unannounced. He just did them. And I was like, what is this? I've not seen this. This is like magic. Like, how did you do this? He's like, I'll show you. And I'm like, I want to learn how to do this. He's like, well, I'll teach you. I was like, well, I was, in the band, I had a job, I was at school, so I couldn't do anything until I got out of school. I was just about to get out of school, and I said, as soon as I'm out of school, I'm going to work for you. You're going to teach me, right? And so Steve Walters, Screwball Press. So he did. He actually put me through my paces. He made me wash out screens. He made me do touch-ups. He made me do the floors. Like, I was doing all that stuff, doing like, I'm going to earn it. I'm going to earn it. He's going to let me print one day. And finally, like after a year of just doing all this kind of menial stuff, he let me print. He let me touch his stuff.
It's just such a big deal. I feel sometimes, just like you being an up and coming, but also like sometimes like, oh, she's a girl, can she do it? I don't know. Is that how? Did you feel that way? Like, oh, he's letting me.
I don't know. I just felt like I'm being tested. I'm doing
Rise
it.
up to the
I'm
challenge.
earning this, and so he taught me how to print, and then since then I have had the company Poster Girl Press, and I started doing posters and album covers for bands. That's how blah blah blah. There we go.
And you did that for a while.
There's that long tail to that point.
Though. I mean, I feel like it feeds one.
I read that somewhere in one of the interviews, and I think Ocean Drive magazine or something, that they brought it up, and I was like, that is so cool. And you just told us before, when you were like, a teenager, you were drawing like that.
Well, music and visual arts, I mean, they're both the same energy, just directed in different places. The thing about music, I mean, you can play by yourself, but it's also, I mean, I think it's more collaborative.
Yeah.
And so you depend a lot more on other people. You also, once you stop playing, there's no sound, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't exist
silence.
outside of, unless it's recorded, but then it's only playing when you play it.
Yeah.
So the tangible nature of painting, that's something that you have.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's better or not. It's just different. That's
You don't lose that.
And you're alone when you're painting. You don't have like someone like, hey, that would look good over there.
Move that section
Do that
to
one again.
side. Pick a different clip.
Louder.
Louder.
Faster.
Yeah, and then the lugging around of instruments and speakers.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Going on tour, and
Oh yeah, and all the dirty stages. Yeah. Filth. The beer smell in the microphones.
And you opened for Alanis Morissette. Is that true?
It's true.
I mean, that's incredible.
Do you want to hear a funny story?
Yes.
Okay, so we played actually Ohio at it was a place called Bogart's, which is an old theater. It's awesome. It's a huge crowd, and we were actually filling in for another band. I think it was Menthol, which is another Chicago band. Who I don't know what happened to them, but we were on tour and we were like right there. So we played the show. And we had our little table with our merch set up, and we had this T-shirts that Josiah designed that said, "Aloha from Uranus," right? And we only had like 2 or 3 left, and these girls came running up like, "Oh, let me have the shirts." So we sold them the shirts, and then they came back kind of sheepishly, and they're like, "We thought it said Alanis." we had to take them back. I'm like, okay, Alanis. Aloha from Alanis.
You're like, let me get a Sharpie.
Okay.
Give me a second. That's so funny. That was good.
Oh, man.
Did you do the merch yourself too? The printing?
Oh, yeah.
You
Sure.
printed it?
I was able to do that because I learned how to silkscreen print, right? And that was part of it. I did a lot of T-shirts in my time. A lot.
Do you have any of your old merch hidden away? Like,
Yeah. In fact, I just...
The Aloha from Uranus.
I wish. I don't have those. I don't have
boo.
those. I have only one.
So sad.
One of the T-shirts left. That's not even my printing.
Aww.
It's pretty boring. It just says motorhome.
I was always curious.
Right.
So after being in Chicago, how many years were you there after?
8 years, a little over 8 years and change. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mostly lived in that one loft. Well, briefly lived in Wicker Park, Bucktown area,
Okay.
which I don't know if you know it, but it's kind of probably still the same, very kind of artsy neighborhood.
Artsy. No, it totally is.
But it's probably expensive now. Not then.
Gentrified.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
But you took a lot of painting classes too, right?
I did take painting. Mostly the teachers that I had basically checked you off in the morning and you were there for 6 hours and you did your thing. And then they came back to make sure you're still there. And that was it. I had one teacher who was very kind of hands-on, who gave those kind of burning critiques where people ended up crying.
Oh, goodness.
Which is, you have one of those. You should
teacher
have one of those.
In your life.
You should have one.
That
You should
breaks
have-
you and
I
then
definitely have mine.
Yeah, well,
Nemesis.
I think that's an kind of old school thing, you know, or they like really kind of, if you don't get through this, you're nothing.
you're
you know?
a failure. Yeah.
You suck.
You suck. This drawing sucks. I know. I
You
had
should
that.
go home.
What are you doing here?
Do you guys know Tony Labat? He's very well known
No.
in Cuba. I had a Cuban teacher in San Francisco, Tony Labat.
I don't know.
The Cubans all of the Cubans know him. And one day I showed him like a video of my performance, and he told me, "You should stop painting." And I was furious, and I wrote in my studio. I wrote in scarlet red letters. I wrote, "Tony Labat told me to stop painting," and I missed the T. I just wrote painting.
Oh,
because I was so furious.
But that's really apt, huh?
That really
pain.
It made a lot of sense to him. He was very proud. My photography teacher showed him, "Oh, look at her studio. Look what she did." And everyone was like, "Ha ha," and he, and it was like, yeah, nemesis. Yeah, you need that.
You gotta have one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny. But you survived, and then you came back to Florida, or did you?
Yeah.
Spot so,
well, let's see. So I moved back here in 2000. I kind of reconnected with an old flame that was here in Miami.
Ooh.
It's funny. I don't know what it is, but I introduced my girlfriend from high school, and to a friend who was actually a friend of the guy that I ended up moving back with. His friend and my friend, they got together, they got married, and in 1999, in San Francisco, they had a wedding reception. We weren't at the wedding, we went to the reception. So he flew out from Miami and I flew out from Chicago, and we were like back together. Like it was like no time had passed.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we got married a year later. So he brought me back to Miami.
Amazing.
And was like reeling me back in. And I was like, don't make me come. No, I did want to come because I didn't know really that at that time that was pre-Basel, right? Mm-hmm. And when I had left in '92, around there, it wasn't really a real happening here.
So different.
It was on the beach, right? There was a scene
I was living on the beach,
yeah.
Right? And that was actually kind of cool because a lot of young people lived on the beach, and almost everybody knew everybody, and we all lived so close to each other we could walk to each other's houses, and we would all go out. Mm-hmm. The beach was right there, and Ocean Drive was like boarded up mostly. Mm-hmm. It was like a ghost town there, mm-hmm. And we basically, I felt like it was our place, and it was such a small window of time that existed then. I mean, I'm sure it's had so many different incarnations mm-hmm. that all these different little windows kind of keep opening and closing. And that was my little snapshot of that, to mix metaphors. But yeah, that was a good time. 90s, early 90s. And so getting back to, he brought me back and we got married. And actually, we were married for 18 years. No longer together, but that's okay. It's a new chapter. New chapter.
Years,
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Practically 18 years. Yeah, yeah. New chapter. Yeah, but all's we're fine. So it's good.
I'm curious about the stills, because you said this love for, like you say, those moments of. I don't know if you said it, but like the ability to freeze and then have it stay in existence versus like the music that continue, like once you stop, it stops playing. But the stills, the frames, they still exist in painting. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious as to why Hollywood films, why romantic kind of sort of old classical movies, like where did the love for that come from?
You know what? It's, some things you get moved by certain things, mm-hmm. and you have to go back and figure out what it is, mm-hmm. right? So initially, there was something about this one particular movie that it clicked for me, right? I guess I'll have to back up again a little bit because I was at Art Center, South Florida,
yes,
when I moved back, kind of to get my roots here, kind of just to have a place to be,
and connect to community.
It was a good thing to do. And so that actually is where I kind of learned my discipline, my being to work every single day, et cetera.
In the studio.
Yeah, in the studio. My studio practice was kind of developed there, which is wonderful. And anyway, one of the artists who was my neighbor he was a sculptor, but he did this series of paintings, and I'm going to get back to the Hollywood thing, but he did this series of paintings, and this appeals to me because I'm OCD a little bit. He did a series of paintings of all the hands on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, just the hands.
Wow.
And they were all the same size. They were about 12 by 12 or 10 by 10, and it was just the hands, right?
In all the different gestures, like,
right. And that, for me, like, I love cataloging things, and I love labeling things, and I love, like, variations on a theme. I love order. Mm-hmm. And so, at the same time, around that same time, because that could just like, it was like a little seed that was planted in my mind. Like, I love this concept. And I saw this, I never watched old movies. I thought, boring, black and white. Boring, never watched them as a kid or whatever. And I saw this movie, The Thin Man, and it was just a revelation to me. And one of the things about The Thin Man is it's very fun to watch. They're very witty together. They're great chemistry, but they're also drinking the entire time. Like, there's never not drinking. They're always drinking. And so I thought, I'm going to catalog each hand holding glasses in this whole movie. I couldn't even get through it all. I did like 64 paintings, and it wasn't even halfway through.
You're like, I'm tired.
It was. I was like, I've already gone through this. You go through certain. You finish. There's a point where you stop. Well, I take a nugget of something and I kind of explore it. I go around it and I go do all the offshoots of it until it's done. So I did that, and that was the beginning of the series in 2008. And it was all like this, coming together of different things. And then I started kind of backing up and exploring different ideas within these sources. And I'm thinking, God, this is a really rich source. All of these people, most of them are dead.
Yeah.
And most people don't, I don't do actors that are known for the most part. Okay. Sometimes I do, but then I obscure the face or something. I try to change the face.
So it doesn't call the attention to just that.
Because otherwise it becomes about that.
Exactly.
Right?
More pop art versus actual painting itself.
And then people who are not known, not even listed in the credits, they're like abstractions. They're not here in space and time, and nobody knows who they are. Yeah. I could be related to them, wouldn't even know. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And no one would know. So, and that to me appeals to me in a Manet sense, where he does the kind of opera where all those people, the big black blob with the little heads. I love that idea. The abstraction of the crowd. Mm-hmm. So I went into doing a lot of crowd scenes like that, and that was one kind of direction within the larger kind of umbrella. Mm-hmm. A lot of my first paintings, because of the glasses, the hand-holding glasses, became about texture, like the metal trays, the furs, the things in the picture. Mm-hmm. There's the painting that, John Curran did a bunch of, do you know John Curran, the painter?
I have to look him up.
Oh yeah, look him up. He's a contemporary painter, and he does figurative work with a sense of humor, but he's also a wonderful painter. He can do anything. I mean, he'll do a lot of different things on one canvas, and I usually say, again, as a teacher, I tell my students, when you're painting, treat all your kids the same. Pay attention equally to all parts of the painting. Yeah. But within his paintings, he does treat them the same, but he gives them differences. Like he emphasizes certain things over other things. So he'll paint in a very painterly way one thing, and then he'll paint it a very flat way in the same painting. Mm-hmm. And I really love the facility of his painting. So he can he's just like, I don't know. I love his painting. But anyway, he did a series, not my favorite series, but I was interested in it. He did porn paintings, but he also included some like Delft china in some of them. Like they were like set up in a way almost like on display, like in a display window. Like, look at these and look at this, And so he would, and I was thinking, well, he's thinking that like this is merchandise, to be consumed, and that's what these things are. So we're making this relationship here. And so the idea of the things in the picture was interesting to me. And if you know John Berger, Ways of Seeing.
Ways of Seeing.
Yeah. He always says, I really like the idea that he said when people bought beautiful paintings of, like beautiful objects and fruits and, beautiful food and all kinds of things and musical instruments, it was because they bought the look of the thing. Yes. And that somehow conferred upon them a status. Mm-hmm. And so the thing becomes, the object becomes the image, or the image becomes the object. And I love that idea. Mm-hmm. I think I'm getting off course here, but anyway.
But it transfers kind of like the value onto the person or something like
definitely,
that, right?
For sure. Mm-hmm. So I talked a lot about the things in the picture, and I gave that a little bit of attention. And then again, now a lot of my work is about again, under the grand umbrella, I'm going through like the nucleus. I'm shooting out into different areas. So right now, I'm a lot of women, a lot of female figures in a period of transition, and that's where I am right now because of my life situation. I'm sure they're between action and another. I mean, they're either leaving or they're going somewhere. They're in between action.
But they seem very sure of themselves. I feel like the images of the women you've selected, like the stills, even though it's an unknown, whether they're to or coming fro, like they still seem like there's a strength about them. Like they feel very classic, like even the way they're posed, like they're not like scared or nervous. Like I like the stills that you selected of your women. Like they seem like powerful women.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. I'm glad about that. That's good to hear. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I like to give not too much direction. I don't want to be literal, and I'm hoping that comes across that way. It's funny because you're talking about text, and that's literal, right?
Yeah.
But kind of. I'm hoping that that's kind of incongruous with the image, so that there's something to work with. Because if you're literal about something, then there's nothing to work with. The viewer is like, what do I do with that? It's just blah. Yeah. So, something to work with is, I think, a good idea.
Yeah, it's kind of like always also a riddler. I don't know, and it's not a riddler is not the best word, but in your paintings, it's kind of like to discover what's going on, yes. Right? What is that?
Good.
I'm
very happy to hear that.
Exactly. It's always like I need to figure out what the hell is happening there,
But also the treatment of the paint. I wanted to ask: is that something you've developed? Because you're not afraid of going thick, which is I know when I took my one painting class, I was always thinning down the paint with paint thinner. I want to touch it. I want to touch your paintings because they feel not uber thick, but they have texture to them. They have bite. What was your stylistic selection of painting that way versus being more super real?
You know what? Yeah. I think my tendency is towards thinner and more hyper or super real. My tendency is that way, but the paintings I love, like Cecily Brown and people like that, and John Curran, the ability to paint with that heavy paint, and I still can't do it. But I'm pushing myself. I always when I get too uptight, I'm like, stop it. Slap my hand. You gotta loosen up, and it's a fight. I fight myself to do that because I have a tendency to be one way, but I want to be a certain other way. Yeah. So it's somewhere in between. Hopefully, I don't know. But if you saw them, I think they maybe come across a little thicker than I don't think they're very
heavy. And the images, they
heavy.
Look really. And when you see them in person, they look not like they come off the actual canvas
there's no
itself.
Actual texture, yeah.
But when you see them from afar, it does look like it's layered.
Oh, good.
Like texture.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm curious, since you've always been attracted to music, and we know both of your parents are artists, are there any musicians in either side of your family?
Where did you get the music from?
I don't know. There's none that I know.
You're the first one.
That's the grandmother's lover thing, right?
Or the on with the radio,
where the genes are from.
We think that everyone came from Bertold.
Oh,
but Nicias, I don't think he had any music in his family either. Well, I don't know much of his family, but as far as I know, he didn't. No, I don't know of anybody. My mother, I was taken as a 3-year-old to learn how to play violin.
Oh.
So that's a 3-year-old.
Yes, I have a mini violin like this big, and I'm holding my hand out. It's probably
it's like 12 inches or so.
Maybe a little bit bigger.
14, perhaps.
Let's say 15 inches. Okay. And this is my memory of it because my brother smashed it when I was a kid.
Oh no, you had a sibling.
Yeah. I think either he was just, Kyle, my brother. He's like smash, smash, smash. Like that. That's his way of being.
A violin.
Even to today.
But it's a violin.
Right. That's his way of going through life.
Oh, no. And you decided not to pursue.
Or
you hope he does. You could share.
So you wanted to play violin at 3? Or?
Well, no. It's just my mother.
Was that something she just
took me to
envisioned?
Miami-Dade, where my father taught, and I even remember her name. Elaine Danino was my music teacher. We played Suzuki Method by ear.
Oh yes.
And And then after that, I took music lessons. I took piano lessons, between 10 and 15. And then I started playing bass around 19, just by myself. I was again, listening, just playing by ear. And so I would listen to records I liked, and some CDs, but yeah, records mostly. And I had a friend actually who's still on the scene here, this guy Rat Bastard, who I just saw the other day, which is weird. I haven't seen him in years. And he is kind of he had a recording company here. He's just, the guy. If you're into music, he's kind of the guy here in Miami. He had a sound, was it like a noise music festival that he created, or at least, I participated in that, and it was good because I was really bad.
I had no idea you did that. That's amazing.
But only to get myself kind of over the fear of playing in front of people. And I knew, noise, come on, I can't be bad at that.
Everyone can do that.
Well, if you know how to play, it's hard, but you're trying to make something out of this. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to make something out of this. No, but you don't want to make anything out of it. And I'm not really a big fan of it, but anyway, he encouraged me. He's like, before I even started playing, we were friends, and he said, well, I said, I want to play an instrument. And he said, well, what do you listen to when you hear music, what do you hear? And I said, I guess I hear the bass. He goes, oh, I got a bass. Why don't you come over and play? So, and I think he was trying to form a girl band or something, because his girlfriend was going to play guitar, and then he had a girl who was playing drums, and none of us ever played before. And I literally had the strap around both sides of my neck, because I didn't know. And my arm was around. Playing. Total dork. But that was enough to I like this. I'm going to buy a bass. So I bought a $150 bass and a little amp, and that was right before I moved to Chicago.
Cool.
Yeah. And then
do you still play the bass?
I just started recently playing again.
Nice.
Yeah, just recently. Yeah. And I'm really rusty. And there's a lot of dust on that bass.
It's so funny with instruments. It's really such a, I feel like, because I learned how to play the accordion when I was 8 years old, and I played for a long time in an orchestra, and and then nothing, and then I dig it out again, and I do a performance with it, or
I like that.
Make a jingle for it.
You know what? That was good. It reminded me of 1920s France, but then kind of on acid. I liked it.
But it's so funny with instruments. You have this, you take them out when you need them in a way, right? It's do you write a lot of music yourself as well? Mm-hmm. So you wrote the songs that you performed with Motorhome.
Yeah.
Right?
If I was saying the song, I wrote the song, or I was the primary writer. Mm-hmm. Some of the songs I wrote on a 4-track, and then I would bring them in. And Josiah wrote songs he would sing on. And some songs we came up with, I'll come up with a riff, and then he'll come up with something, and it'll just kind of come together.
Collaboration, yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, we kind of were more separate. Mm-hmm. I never played with anyone else, so I don't know if I could play. Mm-hmm. I don't know how good I would be playing with anybody else. I'm so used to this one way of playing with one person. Mm-hmm. But I haven't tried, so I don't know.
You never know.
Actually, when I first came back, I did want to get right into playing music, because I had not stopped at that point. Okay. Mm-hmm. And Betty and Gavin, Beatrice Montiavaro, she's a visual artist. Okay. And she plays drums. Oh. She's really good. And she's super, she can hit those drums really hard. She's super loud. And I love that about her. And so she and I were playing, and my husband at the time was trying to play keyboards. I have to emphasize the word trying. And I'm so sorry, because I couldn't handle it.
This is not going to go far.
No. I'm so sorry. I can't say anything bad about him, but he just doesn't have an ear, and he didn't know how to play, and he wanted to have. It was fun, but it wasn't going anywhere. So that then it descended into we're just drinking and playing and screwing around, and that was it. And I was like, okay, so it's our party night. So then that kind of we were looking for a guitar player, but we didn't really find anybody, so it just no momentum.
But you still write songs to the day?
I was coming up with some parts for a song the other day, and I haven't put anything together with it. But yeah, I don't want to. I think that was probably out of my strengths in terms of, I think I learned some bad habits because I taught myself, and I can never get those bad habits to go away. So there's a limitation to my skill and my playing. My playing is okay. It's never going to be better than that. And my singing is fine. It's passable. But my writing, I think, is my strength. Okay. But I don't know if I can say it's amazing, but it's probably the strength of all the things that you can do as a musician. My performing, oh yeah, that was awesome. Man, my foot on the monitor.
Really?
Yeah, no way. Are you kidding? No way.
Because I was like, she has stage fright.
No. I'm conjuring up visions of my roommate's band, and it was like total fake metal band. Spandex pant, rock socks, the whole like headbanger thing. And I was like, what a show, We were not like that.
And so from the Art Center, where are you currently? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh, I'm at Bridge Red right now. My dad bought the building in 2008? Wow, almost 8 years. And I moved out of Art Center in 2010.
You didn't cross paths at the Art Center,
No,
right?
I started in 2014.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, after I graduated from there.
Fantastic.
I did 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a
When Maria was there?
Yes.
All right.
It's kind of like when you come back home. You have to get, like you said, entrenched into the arts community.
For sure. It's a great way to
feel it out, meet a lot of incredible artists.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a nice, not a net, but it's a good place to kind of be, to kind of figure out. You're not isolated.
No.
Which you don't want to be when you first come somewhere, when you're first somewhere. So yeah, it's a great place for that. Unfortunately, right now that they don't have a lot of studios. Were you there after they sold the building or before?
I was there when they were in process of. Yeah.
Right.
But I was still in the 924 building. Yeah. And do you feel like you're just really happy at the new studio space you're in right now? Like it's the place for you. You're not going to foresee moving anywhere else?
I don't think I will.
Nice.
But I don't put everything. I mean, I could. I was thinking about where would I go. Like maybe if I wanted to move away from Miami even. But the thing is, my father owns the building, and he's only there 6 months out of the year.
Because he's in New York.
He's in New York. Yeah. So I'm basically managing the building. I'm kind of responsible for a lot of stuff there.
You have other artists also in the studios, right?
10 studios, and there's 2 project spaces, and we do exhibitions, 5 exhibitions a year.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there's a lot. I'm kind of entrenched there, and that's not a bad thing. It's fine. It's a good thing. I love my studio. I love the space.
That's a great place to be then.
It's a great place to be. But I kind of want to do the move thing again and kind of start something fresh. I mean, I feel like that transitional period is in my life right now, so I don't know. I'm leaving it all up. Oh, no. No.
And
what city are you envisioning?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it's not New York.
I'm not going to dive into headfirst into something I don't know. I think it has to be kind of a natural
has to come
thing.
To you.
I think if I'm open to it, it'll happen.
Yeah.
It could not happen, but I am open to it.
That's all that matters. Okay, my time. Okay.
Your last.
Do you have any upcoming shows or projects you want to tell us about, or maybe any direction your artwork is going in that you're very excited about? Anything that you want to share with us?
I know you have a closing in January of Bridge Red, right?
Yes. Well, we have a closing upstairs. Jane Hart curated a show about, it's a group show, and it's called Sixth, and it's about our changing environment, global warming, etc.
Yes.
And I think it's an important show. It has a lot of video, a lot of sound, and it's a really nice show. I think she did a great job. That's closing on the first Sunday. I think, what is that, the 7th?
Yes.
Would that be the first? Well, anyway, so it's the 7th.
I think
it is the 7th.
January.
The 6th is a Saturday, and I come back a Saturday from my trip, and that's what
Oh, yeah?
It's the 7th.
Same with me. I'm coming back on a trip on the 6th. So, yeah, it's the 7th. And downstairs we have Carol Brown, who's an artist in the building.
Okay.
And Luann Kolodny, another artist who was the director of the Coco, which was the Mocha.
Okay, great.
I'm giving you a lot of facts now.
This is great. Oh, sure.
She runs that space. She's an artist herself. She has the backspace for her work, and she shows artists in the front. So it's nice. It's artist-run space. You know,
Under the bridge.
local. Well, we I think Luann's a little further reaching, or she opens it up to more things. But our job, what we feel, is to kind of show artists who are underrepresented here in our area that are just diligent and working and doing their thing.
That's exciting. That's why we're having these interviews too.
Yeah, not just artists straight out of college or high school that are just developing their work, but people who have had like a discipline, a practice, have developed bodies of work that are just not available to be seen.
Yeah.
So we want to get those people out of their studios and out into the world a little bit. And it doesn't mean like you have to be 80 years old. I mean, you can be 30, but I mean, as long as you've had an established kind
body of work,
yeah. And you're not showing. I mean, we want to do that. We want to show people.
That's awesome.
And
they could go onto your website for the bridge.
Yes, bridgeredstudios.com, and we have all of our past shows and current exhibitions there, and you can see images. Yeah.
Maria has a final question for you.
All right. Yeah. Did you have other announcements that you wanna?
I'm sorry. Yeah, it was the 7th of January. I just wanted to make sure.
7th. Okay.
No other announcements really. I mean, I did have a solo show there. It closed last month.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. And I was in a show during Basel, ping pong, but right now it's kind of a little quiet time, filling the creative well a little bit. And I do feel the sense of something new kind of
bubbling.
Yeah, burgeoning on the horizon there. Because I think, again, the transitional period of my life, and that's when things happen, you know. So I'm open to that.
We're excited.
And they're receptive to this, whatever is coming.
We have the perfect last question for that transitional period. We've been sitting in a magical rocking chair for this interview.
Oh, I didn't realize.
I know. But it grants you 3 wishes. You can wish for anything, but you have to say it out loud. Otherwise, it's not going to come true.
Really?
Yes.
That's not fair.
These are the rules.
That's not fair.
So you got 3 wishes.
3 wishes.
Yeah, you can whisper if you don't want, everyone to hear it.
You have to say the 3 wishes.
You have to say it.
Okay. Well, I hope that the choices I'm making in my future are the right choices, and that's pretty broad.
That's a good wish.
That it's generic
but right now, this is choice making time. So I think this is kind of what I need, and I'm hoping that I'm making the right decisions or choices. Yeah. Okay, that's 1.
Number 2.
Number 2. Again, these are wishes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm wishing that.
You can hope too. That's okay.
Well, I hope that things remain status quo in terms of family and friends and health and all those things, because I think about that, my parents, and I try to spend as much time with my father as possible. I don't get to see my mother enough. She's in Savannah right now, so I hope all the people outside in my circle here are all healthy and well. So I know that's pretty generic too, but it's true. It's true. And lots of money.
Number 3. Yes. That's a good. Well, the lotto is $200 million. I suggest you make the decision to play, and that might lead to number 3. Yeah. Oh God, that was a good one.
That was a good one. I love that one.
Thank you for visiting us, Kristen.
Oh yeah, it was
Thank you so much for visiting.
That was great.
That was great.
So fast. Thank you everybody for listening in, and we'll see you next week for session 38. Wow.
38 next week.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Bye, guys.
Happy New Year.